because let's not forget, Jimmy Haslam said he didn't have nothing to do with Shedeur getting drafted. He said it was all Andrew Berry, the one that made the call. It's on him. So, okay, that's what we're gonna ride with, right? We're gonna put that on Andrew Berry, and it seems like Andrew Berry so far has made a really good prediction, a really good call to get Shedeur Sanders in the 5th round. If he did make that call, which Jimmy Haslam said he did, then it's all.
So Andrew Berry just got the last laugh, and Kevin Stefanski? Man, he looked like someone just told him his worst nightmare was coming true. Jimmy Haslam threw Berry completely under the bus, saying he had nothing to do with drafting Shedeur Sanders, that it was all on the GM. Well, guess what? That mistake just went out there and dropped a perfect 106.8 passer rating, while Stefanski gave the most underwhelming, politically correct responses you've ever heard. The tension brewing in Cleveland right now is absolutely insane, and what's happening behind the scenes is way messier than anyone wants to admit. Look, I need you to understand what really went down here because the media is spinning this story in ways that don't tell the full picture. When Jimmy Haslam came out and said Andrew made the call to pick Shedeur, he wasn't just making a casual comment. That was a calculated move to distance himself from what he thought was going to be a disaster. Think about it. When has an NFL owner ever publicly thrown his GM under the bus for a 5th-round pick? Never. Because 5th-round picks are supposed to be low-risk flyers, not franchise-altering decisions that owners need to publicly disavow.
Stefanski a question in which he implied that the Browns fan base had been criticizing Shedeur. People always Kevin Stefanski mom on Browns quarterback competition after Shedeur Sanders' debut. Man, let's check out what he had to say on USA Today. Let's get into this. Let's see. Shedeur Sanders enjoyed a quality preseason game, as we know. Did his thing. Said on this, despite Sanders' strong performance, Kevin Stefanski didn't immediately make it clear whether that would help the 23-year-old rookie move up Cleveland's crowded quarterback depth chart. We're really just focused on developing our players. When asked about the Browns competition in the post-game news conference, we're in evaluation mode. I'm pleased with where the guys are, but I'm not diving into the quarterback competition.
But here's where it gets really spicy. According to multiple sources that came out just this week, the Browns' draft room reaction when they selected Shedeur was, let's call it, less than enthusiastic. NBC Sports reported that Andrew Berry, frankly, looked not happy. Not necessarily upset, but not happy. Coach Kevin Stefanski didn't seem much happier. Can you imagine? Your own GM and head coach looking miserable after drafting a quarterback who was projected by many as the second-best QB in the entire class behind Cam Ward. Now fast forward to Shedeur's preseason debut, and suddenly the narrative completely flips. The kid goes out there against Carolina and does exactly what he's been doing his entire career, making smart decisions, avoiding interceptions, and delivering when it matters. 14 completions on 23 attempts, 138 yards, 2 touchdowns, and that beautiful 106.8 passer rating that had everyone's jaws on the floor. But here's what really caught my attention, and this is straight from the source material we're looking at. Kevin Stefanski's response was the most politically correct, lukewarm reaction you could possibly imagine when reporters asked him about Shedeur moving up the depth chart after that performance. Stefanski said, "We're really just focused on developing our players. We're in evaluation mode. I'm pleased with where the guys are, but I'm not diving into the quarterback competition. Are you kidding me? Your 5th-round rookie just outplayed everyone on your roster, and you're pleased with where the guys are? That's the kind of response you give when your backup punter has a decent practice, not when your rookie quarterback just announced himself to the entire NFL." And here's where the story gets even more interesting. While Stefanski was giving these vanilla responses, Andrew Berry was standing there looking like a proud uncle. You could practically see the vindication written all over his face. This is the same Andrew Berry who, according to recent reports from CBS Sports and other outlets, has been under intense pressure from fans and analysts who have been calling for his head. Just 2 weeks ago, a Browns analyst went on a scathing rant about Berry and Stefanski, saying people are fed up with the front office.
In this situation, man, but seems like Andrew Berry was happy just everything that's going on behind the scenes with that, man. You just want to know, you don't know who to believe, who to rock with, who's really behind them and who's not, who's just, putting on the front. So it's going to be very interesting to see how next week goes with this whole situation. So,
But let me tell you something about Shedeur Sanders that all these doubters missed. This kid doesn't just play football, he performs under pressure. Throughout his college career, he's consistently shown the ability to elevate his game when the stakes are highest. And what did he do in his very first NFL action? He did exactly what champions do. He rose to the occasion and made everyone who questioned him look foolish. The real kicker here is the timing of everything. Jimmy Haslam made those comments about Andrew Berry making the call just 2 weeks ago, clearly trying to create distance between himself and what he thought was a questionable decision. But now, after Shedeur's performance, those same comments are making Berry look like a genius and Haslam look like he doesn't trust his own football people. Here's what really happened behind the scenes, and this is information that's been confirmed by multiple sources, including recent reports from SI and NBC Sports. When Shedeur was available in the 5th round, remember, this is a guy who many projected as a potential first overall pick before his draft stock fell. Andrew Berry saw an opportunity. He knew he was taking a risk because the optics would be terrible if it didn't work out. But Berry also knew something that the critics didn't. Shedeur Sanders has the mental makeup of a franchise quarterback. The fact that Dillon Gabriel, who was drafted in the 3rd round ahead of Shedeur, got to sit out preseason games while Shedeur was out there grinding and proving himself just adds another layer to this story. As our source material points out, it's almost unheard of for a rookie to sit out preseason games, like he's made it already, like he's arrived, like he's a 3-year vet. But there was Shedeur treating every rep like it was the Super Bowl, while Gabriel was getting the veteran treatment. And let's talk about those interceptions, or rather, the lack thereof. Shedeur didn't throw a single pick in his debut, which shouldn't surprise anyone who's followed his career. This is what he does. He protects the football, makes smart decisions, and doesn't give games away with costly turnovers. In today's NFL, where quarterbacks are expected to make quick decisions under pressure, that kind of football IQ is invaluable. But here's where Kevin Stefanski's reaction becomes even more telling. When asked specifically about Shedeur's role, moving forward, Stefanski said, "He'll get a ton of reps next week as well. That's all a part of our development of young players." Notice how he's framing it as just development, rather than acknowledging that maybe, just maybe, they might have found something special. It's like he's afraid to admit that Andrew Berry might have been right all along. The contrast between Berry and Stefanski's reactions couldn't be more stark. While Berry is finally getting his vindication moment, Stefanski looks like a guy who's watching his carefully constructed depth chart get blown up by a 5th-round rookie. And honestly, can you blame him for being a little rattled? This is a coach who's been trying to find stability at the quarterback position for years, and now he's got to deal with the reality that his newest rookie might be better than guys he's been counting on. What makes this even more fascinating is the broader context of what's happening in Cleveland. According to recent reports, there's been speculation about whether the Browns might tank for Arch Manning, which Haslam has denied. But you know what kills tanking talk faster than anything? Having a young quarterback who actually looks like he can play. Shedeur's performance doesn't just vindicate Andrew Berry's draft decision. It potentially changes the entire trajectory of the franchise. Think about the position Stefanski is in right now. He's got Joe Flacco, who's been solid but is clearly not a long-term answer. He's got Kenny Pickett, who hasn't exactly set the world on fire. He's got Dillon Gabriel, who was supposed to be the future but can't even get on the field for preseason games. And now he's got Shedeur Sanders, who just walked into his first NFL action and looked like he belonged. The pressure on Stefanski to figure out this quarterback situation is only going to intensify. CBS Sports already reported that Shedeur's place on the 2025 roster is now secure and predicted he could open the 2025 season as Browns' number 2 quarterback. That's a massive development for a 5th-round pick who wasn't even supposed to make the team, according to some analysts. But let's zoom out and look at the bigger picture here. This isn't just about one preseason game or one good performance. This is about vindication, validation, and the power dynamics within an NFL franchise. Andrew Berry took a massive risk drafting Shedeur when he did, especially after Jimmy Haslam made it clear that it was all on him. But sometimes in the NFL, taking risks is exactly what separates good GMs from great ones. The fact that Deion Sanders and LeBron James both reacted publicly to Shedeur's performance tells you everything you need to know about the impact he made. When you've got superstars from different sports taking notice of a fifth-round rookie's preseason debut, that's not just a good game. That's a statement. And here's what I think is really eating at Kevin Stefanski. He's been in the NFL long, enough to recognize talent when he sees it, and what he saw from Shedeur in that debut was legitimate NFL quarterback play. The composure, the decision-making, the arm talent, it was all there. But admitting that means admitting that maybe his evaluation of the quarterback room was wrong. Maybe the guy he thought was a long shot is actually the solution they've been looking for. The social media reaction has been telling too. While there are still some haters, and there always will be, the overwhelming response has been shock and admiration. People are starting to realize that maybe, just maybe, Andrew Berry saw something that everyone else missed. Maybe that proud uncle look wasn't just about being vindicated. Maybe it was about knowing he had just found his franchise quarterback in the 5th round. Looking ahead, the pressure is going to be intense. Shedeur's performance has raised expectations, and now everyone's going to be watching to see if he can build on what he started. But if his college career is any indication, pressure is exactly where Shedeur Sanders thrives. The bigger the moment, the better he plays. Kevin Stefanski can give all the diplomatic answers he wants about evaluation mode and developing young players. But the reality is that his quarterback competition just got a lot more interesting. And Andrew Berry? Well, he's probably sleeping pretty well knowing that his biggest risk just might turn out to be his greatest success. The real question now isn't whether Shedeur can play. He already answered that. The question is whether the Browns are ready to embrace what they might have stumbled into, or if they're going to let politics and pride get in the way of what could be their best quarterback situation in decades. So what do you think? Was Andrew Berry a genius for taking the risk on Shedeur, or is it still too early to tell? And more importantly, do you think Kevin Stefanski's lukewarm response is just being cautious, or is there something deeper going on in that Cleveland locker room? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear what you really think about this whole situation. And if you want to stay on top of all the drama and behind-the-scenes stories that the mainstream media won't tell you, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Trust me, with the way this season's shaping up, you're going to want to be in the know when the next bombshell drops. The NFL offseason might be winding down, but the real drama in Cleveland is just getting started.